Same old trouble, villains always knocking at the door. Pretty pictures on the page, but nothing ever stays the same.
Thank you, Vandello, and welcome once again to Graphically Novel. My name is Josh Wasta, a.k.a. Fallout Fieri, and with me is a bunch of men trying to take my lug nuts. It's fair.
Thank you, sir. And with us, as always, is our Emma Frost.
Nice.
Our most powerful psychic in the room.
Nice.
It is the lovely and talented, the Baronessa, Ms. Jennifer Howland.
And it's always, as always, it's my pleasure to our guest, freshly off of the Rec Conversation, Jason Taylor, returning friend of the show.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Good to have you back, Jay.
Thank you. Thank you for having me back. It's been so long.
And
Bear, real quick, Muad'Dib,
Yes.
sir. Muad'Dib.
Just had to get that in.
Your name is a word I'm going to kill.
Nice.
So today we will be discussing the comic book Old Man Logan and the movie Logan, which aren't really that similar, even though everybody said they were. If you have never listened to Rec Conversations, I do recommend you go and listen to the episode that dropped last week, in which we took Jason Taylor completely through Old Man Logan, beginning to end, warts, inbred hulks, and Nazi presidents.
What a wild ride.
Yes, definitely. And so if you have not read Old Man Logan or you need a refresher, by all means, check out that episode as well. But we will...
Are we allowing spoilers for the comic based off the fact that the previous episode dropped a week ago?
I think we can reference more than we do, but let's not get into
Let's not go crazy.
details. Yeah. We do want people to read this comic because I thought this was a great comic. It has little to nothing to do with what ended up being Logan the movie, but there are aspects that we'll discuss.
It's a great comic. It's got plenty of little Easter eggs and little tidbits. It's another one of those kind of like I hesitate to say it's kind of like the comic that we read for, was it Guardians of the Galaxy?
Oh,
where there's just names dropping
Cancerverse?
all over the place.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of little cameos everywhere.
So Jason, what brought you to the yard to talk about Logan?
It's a great movie. I was one of those that thought that that it was based on Old Man Logan more than what it was. And to get the double 1-2 punch of learning the truth and then coming on to this podcast and talking about the movie, I couldn't pass it up. So
Fantastic. Well, let's go around and talk about impressions of the comic. And let's start with you, Jen, because you just learned about everything on Rec Conversations, same as Jason did.
Okay, well, my impression is wow. There was so much going on there that I got a lost really track story thread.
We did talk about it a little bit at the end of Rec Conversations. It's kind of like a Kurosawa film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's very Western samurai, like that 70s, 60s, and 70s. I think, Jason, you brought up Lone Wolf and Cub, which is another in this kind of this vein that Kurosawa did a lot of stuff based on that. Crazy fucking world.
Kind of one of those, the bad guy isn't the bad guy that you thought it, the big bad guy at the end isn't the big bad guy you were expecting.
Yeah. So, Jason, you've had 5 minutes to process. What did you think?
Well, the movie is fantastic. It's actually one of my, I'd say a top 20 movie, top 10 movie, maybe. I'll put it on in the background type of movie. I like it for its, in what I think is its limited use of superheroes, or superhero powers, as it were. And the little girl that plays X2 is just amazing.
X-23, yeah.
Or X-23, thank you. The comic book, though, holy shitballs. That is, I don't, I understand the reason why they couldn't make that at the time. I mean, hopefully, maybe within the next 10 years, we'll see the MCU's Old Man Logan. But I understand why they couldn't do it. But I want to meet the person that said, "Hey, let's do a comic based off Old Man Logan, but only still Logan as its title, and then everyone will just assume it's based off of Old Man Logan."
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So Bear, we had read this back in season 2.
Pretty sure it was season 2.
Yeah, and at that time you had some strong reactions to it.
I still have some strong reactions to it. I got even a few more stronger reactions. You were probably the only one that saw it because, well, Jake, the camera wasn't pointed at me, so he couldn't see the look on my face, and Jen was still going through like notes and comic stuff. But you were the only one that probably saw my face when Leia was telling us that comic continues on, and I just had this like instant grip of both fear and excitement of just like, oh my god, what else are they going to do? But was still kind of excited because I was just like, like Hulk might not be dead. Spoiler.
Yeah, well, and yeah, wow. Just there's a lot there. We have recently done a comic book kind of graphic novel purge to make more room on our shelves. This is one of the ones that made the cut. Like I will keep this on the shelf. It is just a great comic.
There is so much to unpack. It's kind of like you were. I kind of liken it to when you buy back in like the Dungeons and Dragons like 3X era, where you would buy like a source book and there would be just like 2 or 3 pages of here's bits and pieces that you could run another story off of, because that's what you get through most of this comic book is just things that you're like, you could go back and develop this story, you could go back and develop this story. There's so many offshoots that could happen, so many Easter eggs, so many bits.
Oh yeah, definitely. I want to know how Hulk took out
No, you're not. No, you're not. It was Kingpin took out Magneto.
Yes, Kingpin took out Magneto. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of history stuff there that, you know, they hint that Emma Frost had married Doctor Doom. So that is interesting.
That's just a thing. Like,
yeah, like there's a lot hinted at that I would love to see. And I'm not sure if they get into it because I have not read past this one.
Well, and Leia was also mentioning that there was a separate Old Man Hawkeye that was same universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think Allison actually has the complete run because I went upstairs and asked her about it. She goes, "Oh yeah, I've got all that. I just haven't read all of them." I'm like, whoa, okay. Well, guess what?
Well, next time I come visit, we might be just going through those.
Welcome to the library.
Right. Like, definitely, I know what you mean. Also, there was like, I want to know about what happened to Professor X and what happened to Legion. I mean,
neither one of which are mentioned at all. In this run that we read.
Right. I mean, I thought Legion was like the most powerful superhero. Well, I use that term loosely. In maybe just never in this universe 618201 or whatever it was. I forget. I had it written down. I don't know where it disappeared to, but yeah.
Oh, well, you're ahead of me. I do not keep track of the numerical designations. But you know, we did talk a lot about the comic on Rec Conversation, so I'm gonna move more because I think we have a lot to say about this. Especially, you know, the swan song of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. You've got what up until recently was the last appearance of Patrick Stewart as Charles Xavier and kind of going along his story. The introduction of X-23. You've even got a brilliant Stephen Merchant Caliban. You know, a mutant that's allergic to the sun, and it was really not used at all in the X-Men movies previous, which was a shame because Caliban's kind of a cool Morlock character. the ability to sniff out and detect, kind of a cool idea for him, allergic to the sun.
Human variant of Cerebro.
Yes, kind of. So if we can dig into our minds to the first time we watched this movie, I saw this in theaters and I walked out just blown away. Like, so many things were done here for the first time. I mean, Deadpool had kind of paved the way for an R-rated movie, which is how this could even happen. But even knowing that, like, this is a very visceral movie.
Listen, I saw this movie in the theater and I walked out going, I'm not crying, you're crying.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Allison calls this a boohoo movie. She can't really watch it without crying. And if you watch it, did you watch? I've seen it in theaters twice. When it first came out, and I was just blown away because we had not seen a good superhero movie like that. That wasn't really a superhero movie; it was a character. I'm trying to drop in the word.
Sketch, a character development.
Yeah, a character piece. But have you seen the black and white version? It adds a completely different layer to the entire movie. It just, and that's the Boohoo movie. So
I'm a little disturbed by black and white versions of any superhero movie after Justice League.
Yeah.
Listen, I will never forget Troy while we're watching the movie from across the room. Me just going, God, is this movie ever going to end? And Troy going, we still haven't seen Joker yet. Fuck!
Yeah. So, first of all, this movie feels like it came out a lot longer than 5 years.
A lot longer.
This is a 2017.
right.
Only.
Yeah, just so much has happened superhero media since this. Well, also in the world.
But also I think that speaks to how deeply it ingrained itself in our psyches.
Right?
In my mind, Wolverine is dead.
Yeah.
He's dead.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anything else that I read or watch gets put chronologically in my brain, gets filed as before this movie happened.
Yeah, was that you and I that were having the conversation the other day about nobody else should be Wolverine?
Yes.
Yeah. And while I agree, it's going to happen. We all know it's going to happen because the X-Men have to show up in Disney. Disney's going to make tons of movies because just the X-Men content alone is just going to be movie after movie, and you can't do that without Wolverine.
That's going to be the hardest. I don't envy the person that takes that job. He is going to be compared to Hugh. Yeah, I almost said Hugh Grant. Hugh Jackman.
Big difference there.
Yeah. So.
Well, and Hugh Jackman has said after this that it would take the only way that he would show back up as Wolverine, don that character ever again after Logan, is if it was somehow a crossover between Wolverine and Deadpool, just because there's so many references to Wolverine and Deadpool, and that Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds are. So that's kind of interesting to know that that's still out there. It's not like a Chris Evans, I will never be
I'm never
Captain
doing
America
this
ever again. Yeah. But the door is slightly open because, I mean, this is a future, set piece. This is 2029 is when this takes place.
Well, they've got 7 years to get their asses in.
Right. But yeah, just so many different things that I want to focus on. And the first one is, could this have worked without it being R-rated?
Why was it even R-rated? I mean, the violence wasn't anything over the top. With language, you can only drop 2 F-bombs or something like that. Why was it R-rated?
I don't even think they dropped that many.
I think they had a tits scene.
There's when he's driving a bridesmaid party around, the bride flashes.
Oh, that's right. The one boob flash.
Yeah.
I had forgotten all about it because it's right away in the beginning of the movie and it's kind of a throwaway scene.
Charles does call Logan a motherfucker a couple of times.
Which is honestly some of the best lines in the movie when you watch Xavier just be like, motherfucker.
Maybe it's a very tame R-rated movie, maybe, in my opinion. And I think it would work. It would have worked as a PG-13. You scale back a little bit. I mean, he was brutal with the guys that stole his. I mean, when I saw that, I was like, oh, hello, we have a new movie here.
You know what? I think I'm going to guess that the content was a lot more when it comes to Laura's very brutal. And
having
a child do that.
Having a child with that level of brutality is probably.
Let me tell you what the
What does the D say?
The D says content rating is rated R for strong, brutal, violent, and language throughout. They have it categorized from mild to severe, sex and nudity mild, violence and gore, profanity severe, alcohol, drugs, and frightening.
Okay, I mean,
I'd give it for the frightening and intense scenes because this is the first time. My assumption is that this is the first time that any of these people are looking at superhero movie, something loosely based off of a comic book, that they would, all these people that are ratings, doing the ratings, would normally have classified it's a superhero movie, so it's for kids.
Right.
And they don't want kids seeing kids superheroes slaughtering.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, okay, so also, looking back at the previous X-Men movie, specifically the ones that Hugh Jackman, I think the worst that we get is the scene in X2 where the guys are coming into the school, where the military guys are invading the school, and he goes berserker on like the soldiers and like stabs them with both and like runs into the hallway and stabs them like twice more.
Yeah, but then at that point in time, you don't see any blood.
You don't see any blood. And yeah, and it's like the movements are so quick you don't even see blood like on the blades. It's just them going in and out.
That's the other thing, is they were very careful not to have extraneous gore.
Right. Logan, however, you get to see what happens when 3 knives on each hand cuts into someone.
Into an old man's chest who's lying in his bed.
Yes. Yeah. It's...
And if you remember the commercial, when X-23, she's walking out of the factory, and the one guy's like, stop. In the movie, she has the severed head in her hand.
Yes.
And in the commercial, they digitally altered that out as well. So I think it was they amped up definitely the brutality when it came to her, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely. And also keep in mind, Daphne Keane, who played Laura, was 11 years old. And yeah, and did all this. Like, I think we found that I would say that I don't think this could have been done PG-13 just on Laura alone.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been as believable. It wouldn't have been as impactful.
You don't get listen, this is a young Logan before he had any kind of control over his faculties.
Right.
This is literally an animal child with built-in knives.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. A little fun fact from the D is that Millie Bobby Brown auditioned for that part from Stranger Things.
Really? Would have also been a good choice.
Yeah, I mean, there aren't... So the whole thing kind of centers around, ideally, like, other than Laura, who gets into the story about Logan and Charles and kind of where they've come to at the end. The end of, not just the end of the world, but the end of their, lives.
At the end of all things.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think that we've seen, definitely before this, maybe even after this, a superhero movie that gets so into a platonic relationship. Like I just watched the first half of today, and I had forgotten that Charles calls back to the first X in a discussion about how when he found him, he was a cage fighter and drowning himself in barbiturates. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, even the description of the first X-Men movie is brutal, in Logan. Like, I don't remember Logan being on barbiturates in the first X-Men movie, but I mean...
You see him knock back a couple of shots of whiskey, but again, that movie was PG-13 again?
I want to say PG, but let me check on that. That's, yeah. X-Men, and it was 17 years before. PG-13, you're right. Just what a ride, It watching it this morning actually makes me want to watch all.
No, not all of the X-Men.
Not
movies.
all of the X-Men movies.
Not all of them.
I mean, there's still, yes, Last Stand is still out there, and
X-Men Apocalypse.
Apocalypse is still out there. Dark Phoenix is still out there.
Dark Phoenix is still out there, which is still better than Apocalypse.
Somehow.
As bad as it was.
So, other thoughts on Logan? I mean, I will admit I prepared a lot for that conversation, looking for other people to talk more about Logan.
The couple of the things. One I didn't like about this movie was the death of Professor X, killed by Logan's clone. It fell flat. That part fell flat, considering everything else in the movie.
All of the Logan's clone stuff felt off.
Yeah,
It felt like it was added in just for.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just felt like it was added in, like it was thrown in at the last minute. Like, oh, we need to slap this on top of it.
Right.
and the whole little sub scene with the family and the water reclamation rights and all that, they went along with it. I understand why they did it, but I just wanted to see Logan with Little Murder Machine and Professor X. Take them all to Canada, whatever. That would have been a good movie.
I mean, the scene at the farm itself, I don't think was bad. I just don't think that. I mean, they could have just showed up in force like they had at the other stops as just another driving force to keep them moving without pulling out the Logan clone on top of it. I don't think that really added anything to the story, other than maybe to put out the fact that they've been trying to make more Wolverines for apparently several years.
Yeah.
And which I don't really think added that much to the story. You can assume that if they've got a little girl, if they got X-23 out there, well, her name kind of tells you that they've been working at this for a while.
I would have liked to seen Lee. I mean, this was supposed to be the third movie in the Wolverine trilogy, which was the first one with the
Origins, the Wolverine, and then this.
Yeah.
And God, they stuck the landing, but everything else was a goddamn train wreck.
I would have liked to have seen a little bit more callbacks to the other two, like Liev Schreiber, coming back as Sabretooth. It's in some capacity.
That would have been better than putting the Logan clone in there.
Yeah.
Having Sabretooth old Sabretooth pop in.
Yeah.
They could have done a lot with that.
Nothing from the Wolverine.
There was a samurai sword in the background of one scene.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, I didn't even see that.
My name's It just I really like the movie. That little nitpicky part of how they killed off Charles Xavier always gets me, and it seemed such an anticlimactic way for him to die. But then, as Allison's pointed out to me, well, death is always anticlimactic, and the switch gets turned off. I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. But
would it have been better for you if it was Sabretooth killing him?
In that scene,
it would have changed the whole thing because Xavier wouldn't have just woke up going,
yeah.
So the D answers that question. Sabretooth was originally going to have a small role where he helps Wolverine, X-23, Professor X when they arrive in Oklahoma. Liev Schreiber was even approached about reprising the role from X-Men Origins. There was going to be a scene where Logan encounters a kind of underground railroad for mutants. Both scenes were removed because the team behind the movie didn't want to have an abundance of cameos or mutants.
Ah, okay.
I mean, I get it. They didn't want to have a ton of extra powers. They didn't want to be the comic book. Yeah.
Well, they didn't, because keep in mind there was Days of Future Past had 3 years before this had happened. They were on the First Class storyline. They had the 3 X-Men movies. And all of those just had cameos and mutants after mutants showing up. The Wolverine less so, but Origins just had mutants popping up out of everywhere. All these other ones, so they wanted to set it apart, not just with the R rating and the overall tone, but by making the story focused on, there's only 4 mutants. There's Charles, there's Caliban, Logan, and Laura. I mean, there's the other kids later.
Yeah, I was going to say, and presumably everyone they're going to go find.
Right. All of those kids at the last scene, but you don't really see any of that. I don't know. I don't like the clone part. I don't like the Wolverine clone part. That was the only sour note. I agree. But I don't know if having another established character show up, maybe make it so that the drugs don't work and Charles's are so bad that Logan has to.
Right. I would have liked to have seen how Scott would have been killed. I would have paid just a movie on repeat of seeing that.
Well, we saw that in the third. He's killed off screen by Jean Grey.
I would have loved to have seen it in this one on screen.
Just want to see Cyclops die.
I just want to see Cyclops die and die. Let's see, Logan, Cyclops death. Then call it good. Him and X-23 can take turns just chopping off digits. I'll buy that. So another thing about this movie, I guess it took some flack because it was so close to the video game, The Last of Us. I don't know if you ever played it, but
I tried. I was not interested in that game.
Yeah.
I don't know. Other than an older man taking care of an orphan girl, I don't know that there's a lot,
that's similar.
I guess the fans for that game are pretty rabid. So, I mean, if you look up some of
that's what I've heard.
What's it called? Reaction videos to some of the spoilers in the second game. And they just, people freaking out. And it was just a whole big thing. This is not the Graphically video game podcast. So I just thought that was interesting about the whole thing with that movie. And just, there was the similarities to the video game.
I mean, tangents are kind of what we do here.
Yeah.
Am I right? Yeah.
But, this just in, sometimes video game people are fucking.
Well, yeah. Listen, this just in, sometimes fanboys are not.
True.
But yeah, I'm glad I can now, like I said, has no bearing to the comic, and I can't wait to explore the comic and go down that rabbit hole, because this type of stuff is definitely in my wheelhouse. The alternate takes from what we see in what's considered canon. I love that stuff.
What's considered mainstream.
Yeah, and going down that rabbit hole, and this is also, as far as the movie goes, this is Hollywood, and who knows what's going to happen now that Disney owns the property. I mean, they just put this up on Disney Plus with Deadpool's as the first R-rated movies. So depending on the metrics that this garners, if they backed a truck up to Hugh Jackman and said, "Hey, we need you to reprise for a movie," or how about doing the Deadpool 3 is already it's like in pre-production. Mm-hmm. How would you like to do a cameo? Because we saw the cameo in Doctor Strange with Professor X. So anything can be done. And I can't wait to see where, now that Disney has these properties, where we can go from that.
And they're good about taking, going through and being like, well, what are we seeing for views on this? What are we seeing? I mean, they grabbed their Defenders properties and brought them back over. We've already seen Daredevil and Kingpin show back up, and grabbing all these other guys. Like, I would love to see, I don't think Hugh Jackman will do it, but it would be awesome to see Wolverine pop up as an Avenger.
He says in one of these little bits on the D, that's one of his biggest maybe disappointments, is that he was not in a Avenger movie. So who knows, that, like I said, that might happen. But also going back to something you said earlier, who would you want to see him recast as?
We're getting into our own what if. Let's do the casting scenario.
Oh man, Jesus!
I like Jensen Ackles.
All those ums and ahs we used to edit out? I don't think we're going to get away with that right now.
No.
Jensen Ackles played Soldier Boy in The Boys.
Yep.
I could see him.
Dean in Supernatural. Yeah.
And then there's what's his name? Egerton.
Taron Egerton.
Yeah.
I would be down for that. He was in Kingsman.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you actually do a search, he comes up.
As soon as you said the name and you said Kingsman, I remembered who he was.
I think those two would be perfect in the as the new. But then if they do an Old Man Logan movie based on Old Man Logan, I think you got to go with the original Old Man Logan. I mean, that you would have
right? Yeah.
to. You would have to.
Yeah, I'm amused because I just decided to do a quick search of people like kind of say in these lists and things, and Keanu Reeves shows up an awful lot. Well, yes.
I wouldn't know.
I don't think he would be.
No.
But that's why he shows up.
Right.
He wants to be Old Man Batman. Did you see that article?
No.
Yeah, he wants.
I
to
mean,
be,
he voices
After
Batman
voicing,
in the Super Pets. Yeah.
Yeah, he wants to be Old Man Batman. According to this article I read.
I think that they should just make Wolverine Daphne. I think X-23 Wolverine moving forward.
I think that's an amazing thought. I would love to see. Honestly, I would love to see all the incel fanboys out there just lose their damn minds when Wolverine's a chick. They're already losing their minds that we've got a female Thor, that we've got these female superheroes coming out of the woodwork. I would love to see X-23 be an Avenger.
You want to really have those fanboys lose their fucking minds? Somebody that already has a relationship with Disney, already has been through all the backlash and shit. Make John Boyega.
I'm not familiar with the name.
He was in the new Star Wars trilogy.
Oh.
Yeah, he was in Attack the Block.
Mm-hmm.
I would love that.
Give me Black Wolverine. Let's do it.
I would love Black Wolverine. That would be amazing. Of course, I also want Black James Bond, but
also, well,
Idris Elba
I would
is
like
way
Idris
too
Elba,
old.
Yeah.
Although, putting in what's his name, Childish Gambino.
Oh, Donald Glover.
Yeah, as James Bond. Whew, that.
Well, then you're also breaking the whole British actor being James Bond thing, too.
I mean, everybody can act with he's not originally a British actor, but
Everybody can speak with an English accent, you know.
Oh, no.
That one's awful, but I love it.
Cool. I know, right? Blimey. I could do it. I just killed the podcast.
Yeah, there was suddenly crickets, and everybody just let them happen because, well, voice guns.
Just take it down a step there, Jason. Jason Statham.
I am, I'm even speechless after that. I'll need to make sure to play it for Allison. She loves my English accent.
Bad, Jay. Bad.
Are you sure if she's humoring you?
Oh, no, she's not humoring me at all. She hates it. She absolutely cannot stand it.
Good. I was a little worried.
So that's why I needlessly do it every chance I can get for her.
Good.
So
I love how much of a troll you are.
So
If I say anything else on Logan?
great movie. Can't wait to read the comic book.
Yeah. So going around the room, I think I know the answer to almost every Jen. So let's start with Jen. There are 5 more graphic novels of this. Would you like to read them?
Okay.
Didn't catch you. Okay. Bear?
I have this, like I said, you were the only one that caught the look on my face when Leia was like, yeah, there's more to this. And I was just like,
Give me.
I have anxiety and joy at the same time, and I don't know how to feel about it.
Yeah, for me, now that I know that there's more, I will definitely be tracking it down. Add it to my try to ease some of the disappointment that I have with the new Gambit series that I started reading that I found out is just a prequel. It's not the story forward at all, and I'm really getting tired of that in all forms of media and comic books and everything else. I don't care about what happened in the background of the story. Show me the new story. Give me more story. It goes everywhere from Game of Thrones all the way, to comic books. Great.
I can't honestly believe I keep seeing ads for it. I can't believe
House of the Dragon.
Yeah, after you used to bring that up all the time, Jen, that how quickly and completely that entire series fell out of the global zeitgeist, and now they're trying to resurrect it. I'm just like,
No, thank you.
I will probably end up, but
I probably won't even. It'll probably be a season in, and I get other people's reactions before I even think about looking at it. And those reactions would have to be as good as the first season's worth of reactions were before I go back.
Yeah, I mean, and it goes for so many things. Like originally this season we were going to be doing DMZ,
and then we watched it.
Well, we didn't.
You didn't watch it? Oh, well, so I watched it, and you went.
Yeah, well, and you were like, why? Is
why are we doing this?
Why is this? Just
mean,
why is this?
I can't remember the actress's name now for the life of me, and we've covered her in so many different episodes.
Oh, yeah, she was Claire in The Defenders.
Yeah, Night Nurse. I can't remember her name.
Rosario Dawson.
Yes, Rosario Dawson. You'd think with all just the Kevin Smith stuff I've seen alone, I would have remembered her name. But I've had a couple of drinks, but she's a wonderful, wonderful actress. Absolutely wonderful. But as we've seen with so many other movies, it doesn't make a difference how good an actor you are when the script is just kind of blasé.
Yeah. Yep. Totally agreed. Well, Jason, thank you so much for joining us once again, doing the double session.
Thank you.
I think we have completely run through our batteries on this one.
We haven't recorded 2 episodes in a day in a long time.
It's true. Please, everyone, tune in 2 weeks when we will be doing Harley Quinn. We'll be going over the cartoon and the comic book Hot in the City.
And we best be getting some breakfast sandwiches.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I may actually just make breakfast Sammys that day. Yeah.
I can teach you how to make Luke's breakfast
Get
sandwiches.
some of the cheese.
That sounds amazing.
But until then, take it away, Vandello.
Come with me, I'll tell a story that you might have heard before. Graphically novel, but the same old trouble. Villains always knocking at the door. Pretty pictures on the page, but nothing ever stays the same. Do 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 do. Come at me, and I'll show you something you ain't never seen before. Right or wrong, oh can't we all just get along? My mask is no different than yours. Pretty pictures on the screen, but nothing's ever as it seems. Do 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 do. Hero or villain, loved or